Welcome back, everybody, to topic 8.2. This topic is called A Bridge to Biology. This is going to be our last topic of the school year. We are looking at ecosystems in this topic. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to describe the basic components of an ecosystem, identify biotic and abiotic factors of ecosystems, and explain why you are required to take Earth and space systems before you take living systems next year. As always, let's start with our brainstorm. So, what do you think of when you hear the word ecosystem? Please pause this video and add your thoughts to your notebook in your brainstorm. Well, I'd be willing to bet that you probably thought of plants and animals because that's what everybody thinks of when they think of an ecosystem. But for most people, that's where they stop. But there's so much more going on in an ecosystem than just plants and animals. If you want to stick with biology, then you could discuss microorganisms as well. This could be plankton or biology, uh, bacteria, things like that. We also have air, and this would include any gases that have been dissolved into the water, like oxygen or carbon dioxide, just like we discussed last week in our fishbowl activity. There's also the water itself in this particular ecosystem, as well as the rocks that the coral and whatnot are growing on. And if you look at all of this in just the right way, you're going to see a familiar pattern forming. The air represents the atmosphere. The water, of course, is the hydrosphere. The rocks, sand, dirt, and other debris that the organisms live on could be considered part of the geosphere. And then, of course, we have plants, animals, and microorganisms coming together to make the biosphere. These four spheres have been the topic of our entire second semester. Please pause this video and add your thoughts to your notebook, and this will conclude our brainstorm. And let's move on to part 2. I'm calling part 2 To Live or Not to Live. There are two separate parts of an ecosystem. You have the biotic factors, which include all of the living parts of an ecosystem. This is what most people will think of when they think of an ecosystem. In the case of the ecosystem that makes up my backdrop to this video here, we have the turtles and the fish. Those are the animals. We have corals, which are actually animals too. We have plankton, which you will not be able to see, microscopic, floating around in the water, as well as any other marine plants or algae that might be buried in between the crevices of those rocks there. Those are all considered biotic factors because they are alive. They are living parts of this ecosystem. Then we also have abiotic factors. The prefix a means not. So abiotic factors are factors of an ecosystem which are not alive. These would include the water that everything is swimming around in, the water chemistry, that is going to be the nutrients that might be dissolved in the water, or the oxygen or the carbon dioxide that are dissolved in the water, any minerals, any pollution that might be found in the water would all be part of water chemistry. We have the rocks and substrate, the rocks that the corals are growing on, the sand that the other creatures are living on in the ocean floor. Sunlight is considered an abiotic factor, as well as temperature. Plus, you need room to live. This could be considered part of the habitat of a creature. In an ecosystem, you have to have enough space. In this case, we're not talking about outer space, of course, we're talking about room to move. Those are all the abiotic factors, or at least a sampling of the abiotic factors that you will find in the sea turtle ecosystem. Now, what I would like you to do, please, is to go take a look out your window. What biotic and abiotic features can you see from your window itself? Please pause this video and use graphic notes to answer this question in your notebook for part 2, To Live or Not to Live. And this will conclude part 2. Moving on to part 3. Good plan. So let's think back to everything we've learned this semester in particular. Why do you think Kerman High School makes you take earth science before you take biology? Why did you take Earth and Space Systems, this class, before you take either Living Systems next year or AP Biology next year? Keep in mind that the biosphere, which will be the focus of your science class next year, is held up by the geosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. If the geosphere, hydrosphere, or atmosphere started to fail, then the biosphere would fall apart as well. Pause this video, please, and use graphic notes to answer this question in your notebook. Why does Kerman High School make you take earth science before biology? And that concludes our last introduction video of the school year. Thank you very much.